In this video, I'm going to show you how to produce a dance pop song specifically to the references of Delilah by Fred Again, Stupid Feelings by 220 Kid and LANY, and some of the new Drake album that has some house influence. Here's a quick preview of what we're going to make. We're about to jump in and start making a dance pop record, but before we do, I just wanted to remind you that we are running our spring sale over at makepopmusic.com. You can save 25% on our entire store. This is the last sale that we're running until Black Friday, so if you want to pick up any of our sample packs, preset packs, MIDI packs, if you want to sign up for our start to finish production course, Producer Principles 101, head over to makepopmusic.com before Monday, April 10th, because that is when the sale ends, and as soon as this sale is over, it's the last sale we're doing until Black Friday. Also, we have a brand new Vital preset pack called Synergy. It's 200 presets that work for the free version of Vital. We're going to use a lot of them in the tutorial today. We used a ton last week, so definitely go cop that while it's 25% off. Again, that's at makepopmusic.com, but let's dive in and let's start producing this record. So to start, I want some kind of melody. I'm actually going to start with chords and then we'll fill it in with drums later. And I kind of just want something really simple. I noticed that a lot of these kind of like dance pop, house pop inspired records really just use like a 3 or 4 chord progression. So that's really what we're going to do. I've just pulled up this Modern Pluckies preset from Vital. It's from that Synergy bank I was just talking about. And let's just lay something simple like this. Just those 3 chords should be enough for our verse. Let's get cranking. Here's the final MIDI. I went ahead and just added some extra top notes on the kind of top melody just to make sure they're not really, really boring triads. I don't want something that feels super stale. Here's what we got. And one thing that I want to do is I noticed that Fred Again likes to kind of use a bunch of these kind of like lo-fi textures. So let's go ahead and kind of demolish this just so it feels a little bit more ambient and vibey. Okay, so to kind of make this a little bit more lo-fi and ambient and kind of fit some of those more modern dance pop records where everything's not super, super shiny, I went ahead and used Digitalis on this conversion error kind of preset. And then I'm just doing a little bit of kind of low pass EQ just to make sure that we're not going to get something that's super, super muddy. And it kind of gives it that underwater kind of warbled sound. Let's go ahead and duplicate that, and I'm gonna actually pan these out with a different preset. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so what I did is I took another preset called Heaven's Harp. It's just like a little harp preset. But what I did is I added Digitalis again with a different preset. So this one's with a YouTube to MP3, so it's just kind of like doing a little bit of bit crushing, making it a little bit more vibey. And then I've added Crystallizer by Sound Toys just to give me some reverse. So we've got some of that like weird kind of ambient swelling that you're gonna hear a lot, especially in like the Fred Again songs or, you know, some of the kind of like Drake record. And then we're just doing some shelf EQ. And for the chords, I'm actually not putting in those extra top melodies. So this one is a little bit more simple. And we've got this pan to the right, and then we've got that original synth pan to the left. And they both sound like this put together. So it's super vibey. I feel like those chords are good. We're gonna start building on top of that. To layer up these sounds for the verse as we start building, I wanted to add just like a nice little pad. It's just a little sine wave pad. And then what I've done is I've just added kickstart so we can add some of that like kind of dance house movement. So this is just doing some automatic sidechain essentially at a quarter note, and it just kind of swells. Super nice filler pad, used all the time in dance pop. This is really where we start to kind of experiment, and this is really where kind of like the Fred Again reference comes in again, is what I did is I took this little piano preset and I added a bunch of RZ20 to just make this like super lo-fi. Added kickstart to give it that swell. And then this is really where it gets vibey. So I've added in a halftime, and this is the exact kind of settings I'm doing. So I'm looping it at a half note, and then here's everything else. And then I've just done some EQ, and we have this. And then I just duplicated that and added a slightly different preset. So this one's just using As It Has Always Been. It's basically like the synth from As It Was by Harry Styles. And then it sounds like this. And we're not doing the halftime on that one, just so we have a little bit of that original melody. So all together now, we've got this really ambient synth bed. I think we need to add some kind of like vocal melody or something on top just so it kind of, again, starts to fit into that like Stupid Feelings reference. It's just really nice to have some kind of vocal chop as a melodic element. So here's what we've done for this main chop right here. We have basically split the chop and we're doing some of the chop on the left and some of the chop on the right. And then we're just processing it with a bunch of different plugins. So we're doing some compression, we're doing some tape saturation, we're spreading it out with Green Hoss, which is just like the Hoss effect. So it basically duplicates the sound, spreads it out. And I'm adding some more saturation, and then we're just adding some reverb and delay. But here's what it sounds like dry, just split. Reminds me of some of the kind of older Skrillex records that he used to do all of that kind of stuff in, like the Jack U era. So we're going to include that. And this is just a vocal chop that's out of our Smokers pack. So that pack has a little section of vocal chops. I basically just made it match the tempo and transposed it down a couple semitones to match the key. And then what I did is I found this preset in the Vital pack called Crowded Mall. And I basically just printed it a bunch of different times and kind of picked my favorite areas. And it has a bass sound kind of baked into there. And then I've got that really ambient kind of atmospheric, just, you know, ambient noise from like a crowd. And then I'm adding some RT20. And now I think we're pretty much done for the synths for the verse now. I'm just going to start adding in some drums. Let's go ahead and work on some drums. For the drums, I'm gonna MIDI out the kick and the snare, and we're just using Groove Agent, and I've just used some different samples. So we've got Soft Kick 2 here. That's from the Dark Pop Volume 2 pack. And then we've got the Snappy Snare here, also from Dark Pop Volume 2. And then we've got this little clap. I can't remember which this one's from, maybe Dark Pop Volume 2 as well. So we've just got... And then what I've done is I've made a softer little kick. I think we're gonna use this for the verse. It's basically just kick 2 that I've shortened up even more and kind of filtered out a little bit. So let's go ahead and lay down some kind of drum progression just so we can start to have a vibe. So I'm just gonna do snares for right now, and then once I duplicate everything for the second half of the verse, we're gonna add in kicks. But here you go. And then I've just got little rolls at the end. One thing about this kind of like dance style, house style pop music too is a lot of the time it's actually got some swing to it. So what I'm doing is I'm actually quantizing this swing to 66%, and that's going to give me that kind of like choppy little, rather than just having everything be exactly on the note itself. So I like things dragging a little bit. Let's go ahead and let's just like flesh out the rest of this verse. I want to do a B section of this, and then we'll start working on the hook. All right, so I did a little bit off camera. So what I've done now is I've kind of just extended the verse, and for the main kind of progression, all we're doing is just adding a couple little extra hits. So it's keeping the same chords, but we're adding a little bit of movement now. It's really subtle, but it adds a nice little bit of something. And then other than that, we've just got all the other synths that are kind of still going. And then I've just added this little bass here just to give us a little bit of movement, added kickstart so it swells. It's actually like that pretty typical house bass. But I didn't want to have like a super jumpy kind of house bass rhythm. So it's just called the M1. It's just a preset out of Vital as well. And it's just going to act as a nice little bed. And then what we've done for the drums, this is kind of the main change, is we are going to basically filter out everything. So I've added just some RC color right here that just kind of closes out some of the top end and low end. And then for the second half of that verse, we're bringing in that kick, and we're bringing in a little hi-hat pattern. And for the hi-hats, this is kind of prototypical of all house music. You've got this back hat. This is kind of the most important thing. It's just happening on the and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And that's really what makes a house drum feel like a house drum. Like that kind of stereotypical boots and cats progression. And then just to add a little bit more movement, we've got these steady hats. And what I've done is this is just a one-shot sample out of one of our kits, but I've just went ahead and kind of adjusted all of the volumes myself, just to give it some swell and some movement. And so now all together, we've got this for the second half of the verse. Let me just play the verse all the way through so you can hear it. And I'll kind of scroll through all the elements. So it's still pretty simple. Let's go ahead and let's start working on the hook because there's a lot of stuff that we want to do for that. And then this song really needs some like automation and some extra ear candy, just since it's such a simple kind of arrangement, super simple progression, super simple drums. We want stuff that's going to really kind of entertain the listener. So let me focus on the chorus for now, and then we'll come back. So before I start working on any of the synths for the chorus, I want to go ahead and build up these drums. And it's really important in this kind of like dance house to have really, really strong drums and a really strong rhythm. So we've got that same pattern from the verse. So we've got the, kick on every quarter note. We've got the snare on the 2 and the 4. And then we've got those kind of like house-inspired hats. And what we're doing now is we're going to layer that with some shakers and tambourines for this chorus, just to make sure that we can really give it some extra width. So we've got shakers and tambourines, and then I've just added in all of these weird little percussion hits everywhere, just to give us some extra backbeat, give us some extra rhythm, and it's not just, kind of an 8-bar drum loop that we repeat over and over again. So that's all layered over these original drums, and the filter on the original drums has been removed. So now with that filter being automated down, and I've just added a little tom fill to kind of transition us from the verse to the I guess it would be like a drop, but like a chorus or whatever you want to call it. Here's how that feels. You can see how dynamically it just opens up by removing that filter. So we've got a really, really nice kind of dancey, housey drum. Let's go ahead and let's add some bass underneath. So here's the bass that we're going to use for this chorus/drop. It's called Cleanest Surround. I made a couple different tweaks to this preset just to kind of give us the movement that we want. So here's what it sounds like. And here's what it looks like. We're actually changing up the chord progression just a little bit too. So instead now of going, from like... We're still doing that, but we're adding in some of these extra passing notes. So here's what it sounds like with the drums. It's just like, you can hear that we're already in that realm of where we want to be. So let's take a listen. So we've definitely got the right rhythm. Let's go ahead and let's add some of those like house-inspired pianos because I feel like it really needs that. So here's the first layer that we're going to do. It's basically just like a house piano. And then what we're doing is we're just sidechaining that with some kickstart, and we're just kind of making it a little bit more vibey with some RC20. Here's the pattern that we're doing, and then we're layering that up with this kind of like tackier piano. And again, lots of reverb to just kind of drown it out, and then we've got that sidechain on there. Let's hear this drop now that we've kind of got all of the melodic elements that we want for kind of the main progression. All right, let's start layering up these synths so we can get a really nice big bed. So we kind of duplicated that pattern that we were doing with those house pianos, and then we're adding a modern pluck similar to the one that we kind of started this entire song with. Again, just that modern plucks kind of preset from Vital. And then what we're doing is I wanted to add some brightness. So we're adding this 80s brass, and we're just processing this with a little bit of kickstart, but like nothing really too crazy. And what I really wanted to do was really similar to that kind of Delilah reference that we had from Fred Again. I wanted to add some kind of like top end melody just to add a little bit of movement. So we've got this preset kind of pan to the left. We've got this one pan to the right, and then we've got one in the middle. So we've got this one. Filtered and dirty, love that preset. We've got this little digital choir kind of pan to the other side just to add width. Super bright and aggressive, and then we've got this too late pluck that's just like a really nice bright saw pluck. Again, lots of sidechain on everything, and then this is really where it starts to get fun. I added in this little kalimba, and I'm doing this just like really busy, kind of dragging swung arp. And I'm processing that with some RC20, some kickstart, and then the halftime. So here's what it sounds like without halftime. I just kind of like the extra like imperfect kind of dragging counter rhythm that it kind of adds. And then we're just layering that up with this kind of Sandman preset. It's just like a really melody bell. And it's doing the same exact progression. And then for processing on that one, I'm adding a bunch of chorus to spread it out and get something kind of like distorted and modulated and wide. And then we're just doing some filtering and some kind of bit crushing with RC20. And then that's pretty much it for the synths. So now we've kind of got the main layout. What I might do is I might take some of these ARPs and kind of flesh them out through the verse as well. And then I want to add some rises, some hits, some extra ear candy, and just some automation. And then we should have a full dance track. Let me go ahead and show you just a couple little things that I added. And then I'll let you hear the whole thing with some automation, some kind of mixing, and then we can go from there. So I did want to add this kind of like pad that swells in from the second half of this verse. So you can hear it right here. Just a really nice, super ambient pad to kind of, add a little bit of movement. And that's just being sidechained by the entire synth bus. And what we're doing is, this is just kind of a tip. Most presets, especially all of the Make Pop Music presets for Serum and for Vital and for any other stuff like that, are going to have macros. Use these to your advantage. These are a really, really good way to add some extra character and dynamic and life into your production. So if a preset has macros, play around with them, try to use them. You're going to see that this one kind of opens and closes this filter, and we kind of play around with the reverb and the chorus as this kind of goes through, just to make it feel a little bit more interesting rather than just kind of like a swelling pad. So play around with your macros, add things like automation. It really, really helps. And then other than that, we took that perfect kalimba that we had in the chorus, and I'm just doing the same thing where I'm kind of opening and closing this. So we did some extra processing with Black Hole, and then you can see that we're just going to close this and open it. So that's really all that we added for the verse. And then other than that, we're just adding some different swells to kind of help introduce that chorus or drop that's going to come in. So we've got this impact from our dark pop pack called Glassy, and then we've got this little riser from our Sounds of Life pack. And then I threw in a couple different vocal shouts here and there. So we've got the All Right vocal shout. I think that's from Smokers. And then we've got the impact from Dark Pop Volume 1, the cymbal crash from Dark Pop Volume 1, and then the down hit from Sounds of Life. So I like to kind of mix and match sample packs. I don't want everything to be super homogenous. I want things to kind of like, I want to take different elements of influence and kind of mix them all together. So that's why I'm typically using a whole arrangement of packs. I just happen to use all of the Make Pop Music stuff for this, but I'm not opposed to going to somewhere like Splice or, using packs from some of our friends. That's just how this one worked out. So that's what it's looking like right here. And then we just did this little kind of like pull out for the second half of this chorus. And you can see we've just done some volume automation. Let me go ahead and show you all of the automation throughout the whole track, and then we will get going. So you can see right here that we're automating that macro 3. That's going to be that like kind of high cut on the Oasis pad. Then you can see right here that we're doing some frequency automation on that ARP as it opens up. You can see that we've got some automation on kickstart. So as the kind of verse progresses, it gets more swelly. Just so it can kind of like make room for that kick as it starts to come in. And then other than that, that's pretty much it. We're doing some slight volume automation here and there. One thing that's really, really cool that I will show you quick that I didn't show you was when you're doing a house song like this that has a really kind of sidechain vibe and you want to use something like an impact. So like, it can start to kind of mess up the flow and the groove. So what I like to do when I do an impact like that, if I've got that kind of 4 on the floor kick, is I'll add something like kickstart and I'll allow it to kind of hit on that transient. And then this is going to automate in so it starts to swell with all of the other synths. And I'll do that on any kind of big lasting impact. So we do it on that and we do it on this. and it just adds a nice little bit of extra movement rather than just kind of washing the whole track out. Like, you want impacts to add that urgency, but if they just kind of continue through everything else side chaining, it kind of just like screws up the groove. So let me go ahead and get all of this just fine tuned, and then we'll give the entire track a listen. But that's pretty much it. Some ambient synths, some cool little like half-timed pianos, vocal chops, extra kind of atmospheric sounds, and then a big drop that kind of rides on the backbeat of the rhythm. That's pretty much all that goes into a kind of house-inspired dance song, specifically like a pop one that's not going to be super electronic. Let's go ahead and let's take a listen to everything now. And there you had it. We were able to make a dance-inspired pop song. Again, there's tons of different forms of dance music and house music and electronic music. This is just one that I've been hearing on the radio a ton, and as I'm kind of gearing up for the summer, I love music like this. This is what I want to listen to at the pool all day. So I figured, why not make an example like this? We've had a ton of requests for that kind of like 220 Kid, kind of Fred again, house-inspired pop music. I wanted to take some of the lo-fi elements from that and just kind of blend in something all together. So if you like this video, please let us know in the comments down below. Let us know what videos you want to see in the future, because we do take requests from all of you. Other than that, if you like this video, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to our channel. We have music production tutorials like this every single Friday, so you don't want to miss out on those. And then other than that, our spring sale does end on Monday, April 10th. So head over to makepopmusic.com this weekend, because you can still save 25% on all products. Every sound that you just heard in this tutorial was from our store. So all of our sample packs, and then we basically just use Synergy for all of the synth presets. And Vital's a free synth, so definitely go check that out. Save yourself some money. It's 25% off. But that's going to do it for this tutorial this week. We'll be back next week with another tutorial. And until then, we hope you have an amazing week. Much love, everyone. Peace.